Your advantage as a small player is to execute fast. Develop your authority and your popularity, because this is what the main competitors in your area are not doing, because they are so slow on getting approvals, on doing things.
That's Aleyda Solis. She's a renowned SEO consultant, international speaker, author, and founder of multiple businesses. Aleyda is someone who a lot of SEO professionals look up to, which you can clearly tell from her large following on X and LinkedIn. You've probably seen her face on the lineup of world's top marketing conferences, and I'm super happy that she'll be speaking at Ahrefs Evolve in Singapore this October. But back to the podcast episode, it actually turned out quite SEO focused this time. We talked about Aleyda's SEO agency and why she prefers to keep it small.
I don't enjoy managing a company, managing humans, oh my god. I enjoy, however,
what SEO tests she ran for her clients recently and what were their outcomes.
And the whole experience was much better, and I was telling to my client, look, this is what you need to do with this research that you're doing, because all the players very likely had the same raw data, but they didn't showcase it like this.
How she does content optimization.
And that is what they are lacking across many of their pages to run better. It's not lack of relevance, it's not lack of comprehensiveness of their content.
And when internal links can really move the needle.
We know that in terms of SEO, this will improve the crawlability, this will improve also passive link popularity across many other products.
My name's Tim Solo, and you're listening to Ahrefs Podcast.
Ahrefs Podcast.
It's actually pronounced Ahrefs.
Oh, sorry, my bad. Let's do it again. Ahrefs Podcast.
So you have tons of speaking engagements, and then you have an agency. You have SEO FOMO, an email newsletter. You have SEO FOMO community. You have remoters.net, which we'll talk about later, but I believe the main gist is that it's a job board. Then you have learningseo.io, like educational website. Then you have Crawling Mondays, where you regularly create content. And yeah, like you do a lot of speaking. So I wonder, if we draw it as a pie chart with like your time and effort, where most of your time and effort, I don't know, throughout the week, the month, is going in regards to those projects, and which projects take the least of your time?
Of course, my priority is my consultancy. This is how I make money at the end of the day. What I actually enjoy doing a lot. A lot of people are very curious, usually asking me, oh, Aleyda, how you haven't grown like the typical agency model to 100 company agency or something like that, right? That quite a few people who started doing SEO at the same time that I did ended up doing, right? And I don't enjoy managing a company or managing too many people. That is the most complex thing to do, managing humans. Oh my God. I enjoy, however, working with clients, with projects in SEO, doing actual audits, establishing strategy with the product team. I am thankful at this point. I work with very well-established brands that have in-house SEOs, product managers, involved UX people. So I end up strategizing, having the ability, and I'm very thankful to have the opportunity to collaborate in these bigger projects, let's say, that is not a client that you need to evangelize SEO from scratch, the value of it, but they have very specific challenges, very specific opportunities or need, and they come my way because they need an external support in order to be able to delegate or a double take or a validation.
So percentage-wise, your agency is what, 70% of your time?
Yeah, I will say yes. Yes, a lot of what I do in my day-to-day is that with my clients, right? Like SEO consulting, I will say. Then potentially 20% is SEO FOMO. SEO FOMO takes quite a bit of my time. Even if I have help, I have to say that I don't do this all by myself. I have also a few people helping me to do the legwork for consulting. I do the top-level strategy, the day-to-day with the client, but a lot of the data gathering, segmentation, etc. I have help of SEOs also to do it that work with me. And so with SEO FOMO, I also have an SEO copywriter who I like, and we have like a framework going on, which has worked well so far, but still needs a lot of my involvement.
You say you don't like managing people, but at the same time you have an agency, you have SEO FOMO where someone is helping you, and I would imagine someone is helping you with other projects. So how many people total work for Aleyda?
Around 4. 5 maximum, depending on the time. Yeah.
Whoa, this is very efficient. This is very efficient. I would imagine that would be more, because
yes. I mean, by like crawling Monday's editing, I do it myself with that script, for example.
Okay.
Yeah, learning SEO.io. So, for example, like I externalize the web development and design, etc. And I have like, let's say, a web development agency that I trust and I delegate. But of course, like any change, etc., is me requesting, organizing it, etc. I don't have a VA organizing that type of stuff. I really like to be involved and to be able to specify and to know, oh, this is what I wanted. This is the quality that I wanted or the experience that I wanted, right? You have to think that I work with maximum 6 clients at a time. Most of the times.
That was one of my questions.
Yeah,
actually.
this is actually doable because I don't work with 100 clients like typical agencies, and this is the difference, right? And I worked for a couple of agencies back in the day when I was still an employee. An agency needs to be always selling. There's a lot of churn, and that is the tricky part of the agency too, because what you realize and your know-how, and also there's also a churn of employees going on.
Yeah.
So it's tricky. What is first, chicken or eggs, like employees or clients, right? I wanted to avoid all that. Clients realistically come to me because of my know-how, because of my experience. They are going to talk with me, not an account manager. I only work with a maximum of 6 at a time, usually 5. But of course, these are high-level type of projects, very in-depth, usually established brands that have their own in-house team. So I support them with something very specific, or high growth startup in which I am able to pretty much help one of the founders or the product / marketer, the first one in the startup, to establish the base of everything. And that is actually very fulfilling to see like the growth over time, to establish the architecture of it all.
Let's dig a little more into the work you do at the agency, because like you said, it's like 70% of your time. So I'm super interested to dig in. You said you have around 6 clients. What's the typical kind of contract length of your client? To work with them for a few months or like for years?
Yeah. I don't take one-off projects unless it's something like, oh, this is an example, right? This is a real brand that has consistently fall in since a year and a half ago in Google updates, right? Like, let's find out what is wrong and how to change the base of all of what they're doing and how they're tackling SEO, because they don't deserve that, something like that, right? Unless it is, and so you understand that it's going to be a project with in a certain length of time, because they will tend to have also their in-house team that will take off after you recommend, and you might validate from time to time, but it's not like an ongoing engagement or typical engagement, right? The same with web migrations or redesigns. You know that the redesign or the web migration will take a year and a half. And after that, it's not an ongoing SEO process. But yes, usually I work with retainers. I work with ongoing processes of clients that are like, oh, we have launched a new version in the UK, an example, or in all of these European countries, or in Latin America, and we haven't seen growth. We haven't prioritized those markets, but next year, they are our priority. Can you please help us to establish a strategy, how to tackle, which should be the areas, the topics, a strategy behind, and to help the local focus SEOs to accomplish those goals, right, through the year. So usually these are yearly type of contracts or processes that if everything goes well, and thankfully they tend to do, they get renewed, right? In other cases is, more specific, like what I mentioned before, redesigns, rebranding, things like that. But yes, they tend to take months. I avoid the whole one-time SEO audits that I see happen a lot because of two reasons. One, because of the client itself, the company itself. An audit as an outcome is not a solution. The solution is the execution. And unfortunately, if I deliver an audit, even if it is highly valuable and I recommend the right things, if they don't execute them well and on time, they won't pay off. And then they will blame me for not doing it right. So whenever I do an audit, it's because it is part of a larger process.
And without naming the client, let's get a little more into the weeds. I would love to know what specifically, like what is your day-to-day agency work look like? So can you recall a few latest SEO-related tasks that you did for your existing clients?
Yes. So for example, and this might seem a little bit, let's say, low level, not necessarily that sophisticated, but we were testing things in PLPs, like specifying the second level characteristics or facets names.
What is PLPs?
Product listing pages in e-commerce websites. So in facets, for example, why jeans for girls? Right? So for these clients, very well-known e-commerce, we were testing up to which point it was worthy to specify the name of that particular facet, what will be the impact to that in click-through rate, and up to which point it will be truncated by Google because it will become too long. So there's only so much. Of course, we know, and this is the difference of real SEO on the day-to-day versus best practices. In the best practice, you definitely need to make your metadata very specific, descriptive title, meta descriptions, headings, everything. But up to which point it actually makes sense, because otherwise it will become detrimental because it's way too long. Google will truncate. It will look too generic. Google will rewrite. If they rewrite many times, won't be good, etc. And so we identified that there was this group of second level facets that had been left historically with this very generic titles and meta descriptions because they decided that it was the easiest thing to do to avoid this whole situation. But these are facets that, even if they might seem like they are second level, might attract a lot of really good traffic because of the combination of the queries. So for example, if you work with retailers, the colors of clothes or shoes, sneakers, have a very high search volume, especially at an aggregated basis, right? And when we took a look at how they were ranked and performing with this type of pages and what their competitors were already doing, we saw, okay, a few of your competitors are already definitely putting a lot of weight on these pages, and their metadata is certainly more descriptive, and their snippets are more well crafted than what you have. Your average click-through rate with this sort of pages is much lower than the actual one, so it will pay off to do an A/B test to see what will be if the effort will pay off, right? Like, let's better craft the titles and the meta description to make it more specific to the particular page. Let's try to make it in a way that the wording is not truncated, and let's see if it works well or not. So these are some of the, let's say, day-to-day, like this. We did this like a couple of weeks ago.
What you just explained seems almost like a data study, because you need to pull different sorts of data like titles, meta descriptions from the actual pages. Then you need to pull those titles and meta description from the actual search results pages to see how they are truncated. And then you need to pull the data from Google Search Console for a given page, maybe even for a given keyword, to show CTR of that page. So my question is, who does that? Like, do you, pull that to spreadsheet with some, plugins or whatnot?
Yeah, it depends if in this particular case, yes. For example, we were working with very powerful SEO crawler, SaaS crawler that was able to pull a lot of this data at scale.
It's okay to name any tools here. Yeah, of course.
We're working with Botify. We could gather a lot of this data at scale, but yes, we had to then do a little bit of a scraping also at scale to see a little bit of the SERPs results and what all the pages were doing and how they were looking. And then for the tests, I'm very happy using SEO testing. .com. I don't know if you know them.
I've heard about them, yeah.
They integrate with the Google Search Console and they allow you to run tests in different ways with the Google Search Console data, but filtering in a way that is actually meaningful. So it's very, very useful and very affordable too for what it does. Is amazing. I love it.
So when you say you worked with Botify, do you mean that you have like an account manager who helps you do this stuff? Because
No.
I think they have like they're kind of like an agency.
I think, from what I have seen, they do that with their bigger clients or enterprise clients that they tend to have. But I have my own account that I use with clients that I set myself all by myself. I don't need any help. But then some of my clients, because they are enterprise level, they do have their own accounts with them and they give me access to it.
Yeah.
And
but
yes.
I mean, you have to like pull a lot of data together. So like I said, titles of pages is easy. So like any crawler can do it. Again, Screaming Frog, probably one of the cheapest crawlers can do it. So you don't need like enterprise level because like Botify is very pricey. So the SERP data, where did you get how it is truncated in the SERP?
I have advanced web ranking. Advanced web ranking is great. They give you all the titles of the pages ranking for the keywords that you tracked that are changed in the SERPs.
Okay. We actually do this as well at Ahrefs. We show the title, the original title of the page, and the title we saw in SERP. We do this inside Explorer. But okay. So you have this data from Advanced Web Ranking. You have Botify, and in which platform you brought it all together?
So in this particular case, because the number was still under the limits, I was able to do it in Google Sheets.
Okay. So you were personally doing this. You were personally pulling. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Interesting. I would imagine that because you said you have a few people on your team, I would imagine you have someone like proficient with like scraping and all those things who would just, you would say, I need like to see this, and the person would do it.
In all the cases I do, but in this particular one, I wanted to do it myself. Because it was like, it was one of these test projects, as you see, that will need to, let's see if it actually makes sense to put any effort here and if the data was correct or not. I actually requested help, but to just filter out those type of facets from the full crawl and with certain type of variables. But yes, to only have those particular URLs to do it, but that was pretty much it. But yes, these are the type of things that I like to be involved with. Yeah, it's a good challenge to have.
You mentioned the word tests a couple times. And what I'm wondering is if working on SEO of enterprise companies actually involves doing a lot of tests and looking for kind of these small opportunities that scale. Because what I, at a certain point, realized is that big enterprise companies, they don't need link building. They are usually big brands. They get links on autopilot. They usually don't need like content or traffic because they already have it. They're already big. So what they need is kind of more efficiency with what they already have and get more results with what they already have. And what you just explained is a perfect example where by figuring out a better way to structure page titles, you can get a boost in your search traffic without adding any backlinks, without adding any new content, without making any more significant changes on the page, because changing titles is of course a lot easier than adding some block to different pages. So yeah, I wonder if like doing those kinds of tests is what enterprise like companies are most interested in.
At the beginning of the process, I believe that it depends also on the level of maturity that any company has in SEO. So at the beginning, is a lot of fixing things and configuring things to avoid the bugs to come up again. So, for example, because I work a lot with marketplaces and e-commerce, usually at the beginning, I will, if they haven't done a lot of SEO through the years, or I might find when doing crawls, right at the beginning, you still have quite a few very old product pages from a few years back that are returning now for 10s or 404s that have thousands of backlinks still. Or many of your out of stock pages, you left them out after months indexable. They are now returning 404s, 404s, in the Google Search Console. They are not referring to the new product. They are not redirecting to the parent category, even if they are obviously out of stock permanently. How do you handle that? So it's about at the beginning of even smaller and bigger projects.
Basically, it's a checklist of SEO basics that you need to go through.
Is the base to build on. Then after a few months, hopefully this base fixes will be done in terms of crawlability and indexability to ensure that it works as expected, based on the workflow of the publication of the website. They have certain logic because of product inventory or content inventory in general, how it works. So you need to configure that everything will work well based on the different scenarios of that inventory. And that is true independently of the size of the company. After a while, then I believe that it comes the difference that you talk about in level of sophistication and what is actually meaningful to achieve results. For smaller companies or startups, so for example, one of the more startup-like companies that I'm working with, after we did this, now we're creating actually a strategy to double down on their informational content to create assets, resources, how we can leverage their stats and insights that they do have because they have a real brand to let's say, establish themselves as the authority in their fields and create tools, trends that they can use to pitch and do a little bit of PR to bring this sort of very valuable backlinks that they do need because they are not an enterprise level company. So it makes sense for them. And that is what they are lacking across many of their pages to run better. It's not lack of relevance. It's not lack of comprehensiveness of their content. They have really good landing pages for all of the relevant queries, for the different permutations of queries that actually make sense for them to target. And we have established that well already from a crawlability, indexability, and relevance standpoint. Internal linking also is already working well. So to build on that, the gap that they need is popularity. So how we establish that popularity. And so we are at that stage right now, establishing that. So for example, at the end of last year is that they did some surveys and giveaways, and they already created the best of in their fields, and they got a lot of PR. So they're already doing a little bit of that, and it is paying well off. But that is for smaller companies, let's say. For bigger established companies, after you are done with the base that we talked about before, it is okay, what are now then the opportunities? What it is feasible in terms of resources and flexibility from the product to build on, to establish, to be able to grow further and achieve those goals that you will tend to have with certain product lines, certain markets, et cetera, et cetera. And that might have to do a lot of, let's improve the listing pages, or let's improve something on your product pages that we have identified that your words giving a worse experience that your competitor, or not leveraging as much as you could, and to make you more comprehensive to rank for certain type of query, or to be a better match to fulfill certain type of intent, or to create a new section, a completely new section or area or group of facets that will connect with a certain type of query combination that you haven't yet targeted. But for all of this is the thing in enterprise companies that actually makes sense to mention, right? Unlike what I mentioned before with the startup, that is many times even the CTO involved directly and saying, yes, we have the resources for this in the next quarter. Let's just leave it on the next quarter, and then we do it, and that's it. And having the approval of the marketing director, head of marketing, whatever, and that's it. In the enterprise level company, it will go through all of this. Okay, bring the product owner, bring the UX person. Are we all aligned to do these changes? And even showing more products on a listing page. What is the burden of this in terms of the code of the page? How much this will impact speed? Is the person in charge of the design? How will they would change the design? So many times, because all of these people involved and the bureaucracy that exists and the process of approval, they will require tests. Okay, show me that this will actually pay off as you want, as you wish or you expect in terms of SEO. And then also show me that it won't be in detriment of what I actually care about in my area. So many of these tests is, I will show you that, for example, the example of thankfully of the metadata didn't have consequences in other areas. So that's good. But another example, let's improve the internal linking, the cross-linking between certain product pages. We know that in terms of SEO, this will improve the crawlability. This will improve also passing link popularity across many other products that don't have as many from those that do. But the conversion people were concerned that it will have a negative impact on conversion on these products, these pages. So we did a test from our side to show that from our perspective, it was paying off as we expected. It was a line of what we expected. And they did their own test to see if there was any negative impact in terms of conversion. And if we were all good, okay, we will release it, right? But it tends to go very slow because of all of these validations that need to happen to ensure that of the alignment of so many different areas. This is why whenever I have a small company in a very aggressive market or competitive market, and I have one right now in fintech, which is very competitive, I tell them, look, your advantage as a small player is to execute fast. You need to do it fast because of, and to develop your authority and your popularity and all of this, you will do it if you are consistent in time, if you build up all of these resources and leverage all of these opportunities. But you need to be consistent and you need to be fast on all of this, because this is what the main competitors in your area are not doing, because they are so slow on getting approvals, on doing things. Even implementing structured data can be such a shocking. And honestly, I have had these conversations about, for me, it's obvious structured data should be good in terms of the rich results type of impact. But then some product people will question, what if certain ratings of certain products are not so good? Do we want to showcase them every single time? How do you handle that? So again, there are a lot to navigate in those sort of scenarios, I would say.
I want to specifically talk a little bit about internal linking, because we literally just published an article on our blog, Patrick Stocks. So we had kind of like, I don't know, a disagreement or like a friendly debate. I had a position that on Ahrefs blog, because we do a lot of internal links between our articles naturally, because as you're writing an article, you kind of know the content that you already have on your blog. So where relevant, you're linking to other pieces, other articles that might be useful to readers. And I thought that adding this like typical block with related articles will not do anything to our search traffic. Patrick didn't agree with me.
I agree with Patrick. It does.
Yes, so we implemented this block, and we did see, Patrick published an entire article with like a data study about this. We did see some incremental traffic increase. I won't say it was like very easy to notice, but when Patrick studied data, there was an incremental increase, but it wasn't too big. And like you say, the product people, the designers, or like myself as a user, I don't really like bloating the page with extra stuff. And I was questioning if people really click on those like related articles, since my position is that when a person is reading your article and there are related posts, you have to kind of quote unquote sell them those related posts within an article. Like you're writing about something. Oh, actually, if you're interested in this topic, we have a great post about this. So, and again, the famous reasonable surfer patent by Google, it says that the lower links are on the page, the less likely people are to click, because the people are unlikely to get to the end of the page anyway. So I was questioning, like, do we need this block from the user perspective, from their experience? So, and Patrick said, like, okay, it's not like that much traffic, let's remove it. And we will also be able to track like if there would be a dip in traffic after this. And according to Patrick, it was. So then we brought it back again. And it seems we saw a little bit of uptick, but again, it wasn't significant. And what Patrick said in the article is that for pages or like clusters of the website that are already well interlinked, adding additional internal links doesn't bring a significant boost. But I would imagine that for websites that don't have any kind of inherent good interlinking, it leads to significant boost,
and
right?
are
What
very
did you see from your
complex or very
experience?
in-depth, 100%. I mean, and it totally makes sense. I mean, if you have a very already easy to browse, relatively flat navigation, if you already have breadcrumbs, if you already have a sidebar navigation, going through all of the different subcategories or areas of that particular section on your website, the impact from a user standpoint, if you think it's very logical, the user already have an easy way to reach. If they want to keep reading, right, they will do it. It requires an effort. Not that many will do it, but if they want to, they have already easy ways to do it. So they don't need, or they will appreciate less these sort of very obvious recommendations. However, for other websites, and that is the beauty of it depends in SEO. But by all means, I dislike the generic depends. But what it is important is to specify it depends on what. So if you have a very in-depth website with 5 layer subcategories. They have some sort of layer navigation too, but it's so in-depth that they cannot possibly cross-link to all of what is actually relevant to cross-link. This sort of very obvious recommendation from a user standpoint actually makes sense and will tend to drive more impact. That is why it is so important to prioritize actions based on the particular context of the website and current optimization of the website. You say, of course, optimizing titles and meta description will tend to be some of the top things to do at the beginning. But if the website is already showing very well optimized titles and meta descriptions, it's like the gain will be very little. The same in this case, right, with internal linking. What is interesting, I will say, is that it is much easier, let's say, to be able to wait and see the impact on this and the internal linking in terms of traffic. Then a little bit harder, I will say, to wait on and to be able to isolate the impact in terms of rankings, right? And that is the complexity of this type of things with SEO. Because also it depends if you're passing more links from those product pages or guides or category pages that were very popular, super popular, and had thousands of backlinks to those other pages that have zero, but are targeting very competitive terms and passing these links to them and that value to them now allow them to compete better for these queries.
I still want to go back to interlinking. So I'm glad you say that it works, especially like it worked even for us, given that our pages were well interlinked. But as you're saying, for clients with worse kind of fundamentals, it gives a visible boost. And the reason I want to go back to it is because we have a very cool report called Link Opportunities. And Patrick was the one to come up with this report. Basically, when you crawl your website with our site audit, we can identify which keywords your pages are ranking for, and if these keywords are mentioned on other pages of your website. So it gives you opportunities to link relevant pages to relevant keywords that are mentioned on other pages. This is very cool. And just I think today I saw from Patrick on Slack, he offered a pretty cool hack for internal linking. I wonder if like what you think about it. I think it's pretty cool. He said what you can do is you can look for generic text in internal links, like click here, this, blah, blah, blah. And you can go to those pages and like put proper anchor text to give Google more context of what you're referring to. I think this
100%.
is a very cool tip.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I don't know if you saw and this is actually already confirmed in a way by Google, in the documents that they had to disclose because of their trial with the US.
So much good
government.
information is coming out of this, right?
100%.
I want to go back to the experiment that you were doing for one of your clients, or like a data study about page titles and meta descriptions. So the question is, how, like, did you or like were you going to rewrite them? And specifically, the reason I'm asking is because now we have AI.
Yeah.
So tell me if like the result of this experiment where you need to optimize the titles of pages is something that you would accomplish with AI.
100%. I believe that in that scenario, it's templated type of content, right? This titles and meta description nowadays for most websites at scale is generated, not guides, right? Not informational content, but e-commerce are generated with templates. Name of category by, and again, a variation of the name of the category and the name of the brand, something like that, right? Or the number of products in the title, by now or by name of the category. And then, so these are templates. It's very templated. The problem is that these templates work for a certain number of them, not necessarily for others because of the wording, the grammar, sometimes plural, singular, and the truncation, the length of them, right? So you can definitely leverage AI, for example, in this way, right? Like, for all of the titles that are in this column in a Google Sheet that are truncated or go beyond this character length, suggest me another.
So here's the thing.
Another version
I have to interrupt
this,
you.
right?
I have to interrupt you because here's the thing. We have launched a number of kind of what we call AI writing tools, basically, as they call them, wrappers around ChatGPT with like a very specific purpose. And one of them is a meta description tool. So like AI meta description tool or whatever. And it ranks well in Google for kind of generate meta description or something. And as I was recently at a Sydney SEO conference by James Norquay, some lady came up to me and she said that I cannot make your free meta description tool generate me meta descriptions with a given length. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. I'll go check it. So I went to try our own tool. And it generates text that is well under because when you're given a certain amount of characters and because you say like Google is truncating stuff and it doesn't necessarily truncating at a certain character length, because I believe the latest they look at the width because different letters have different width. So they look at pixel width rather than the amount of characters. And the thing is, I pinged our product team and I said something is wrong with our meta description tool, because I believe people want to generate meta descriptions that would fill the entire thing. And what they told me is that ChatGPT cannot generate, I don't know, sentences or paragraphs with a given length. It just cannot do this. So, which is interesting, and which is the reason I asked you if you are going to use ChatGPT, and you said you said you can use ChatGPT, but I was interested if
this is what it is important, right? You need, and I created a guide for it to specify and craft very specific prompts to ensure that the outcome is quality, and then of course always validate the outcome to ensure that the outcome is the one that you expect. If in
but
that
I mean,
scenarios,
if you have to go through 300 page titles manually, then
no, but it already saves
value?
time. It already saves time. Oh my God, team! One thing is to write every single one of them from scratch, and another thing is just to review them, the edition.
But if they're already written, you already have those page titles.
But yes, one thing is that you need to rewrite every single one of them, and another thing is just to check if it is working as you expected. And if the quality is good, it's already serving you time. This is my point. I think that a lot of people think that ChatGPT or LLMs benefit is to leave them on autopilot. I don't believe that, and I don't trust at this stage, and I don't think that I will ever, to leave them on autopilot. We need to always have a manual validation edition to ensure the quality of the output. So if in even testing different type of prompts, you identify that there's no way to generate titles of a description of certain lengths without being actually detrimental because they are too short by pushing this, right, etc.
The specific character length.
Then is a use case that you cannot follow or that it's not good. But imagine if you didn't have manual validation or edition. You need to. And even the other way around, if you're able to generate titles and descriptions that are shorter, that achieve the goal to be shorter, in some cases, the grammar won't be good. The meaning might be tweaked. They won't be as relevant. And you will still need to tweak them. They will still need a bit of need of manual expert validation too. So I don't believe, and in general, you can quote me on saying this, if you are like, I don't believe on leaving this on autopilot. It won't work like that. And that makes the whole difference on quality output and eliminating scenarios that it doesn't make sense to have in your particular context and others that will, right? And the same if we extrapolate this in so many other situations or scenarios. I've seen, speaking of internal links, tools that automate this completely. Again, and many of these tools are becoming more sophisticated. You can train them, specify criteria, etc. And they will work on a lot of scenarios, but in others they won't. You need to manually validate. I don't believe that it's reasonable to leave them on autopilot. But even like that, even if you need to manually validate, it will take, it's already a profitable implementation, right? It will already save you quite a bit of time because you don't need to write from scratch or create a link from scratch. Think of doing it from scratch or redoing it from scratch versus just validating and revising, right?
We'll return to AI a little bit later. I wanted to ask you also a little bit about tests. So this was very cool to test the truncation of page titles and if it affects CTR, if it affects traffic. Can you recall any other recent cool tests you've done? So for example, what we've done, and I tweeted about this, we tried adding kind of fake summarize widget to 5 of our articles. It had pre-written summary of the article. We just wanted to test, first of all, if people would click to summarize an article, if this is kind of what they're interested in, instead of reading the article, read a summary. And second, we want to see if, like, because of some people would engage with the article as in click the button, if like the traffic to those articles would change. To be honest, we didn't see much interest in people wanting to summarize it, and we didn't see like any traffic increases that would be attributed to this thing. So this is just a quick test that we run. I wonder if you have any interesting tests that you can recall.
Yeah,
those
sure
kind of
thing.
things.
So for the FAQs of a marketplace that I am working with, we have these FAQs in every listing page. They are location focused. So in every location page, we had FAQs that were templated. So at the beginning, very beginning of the process is where this was one of the things that we did to add a little bit more value, again, relevance to these pages in a way that was meaningful, created like a group of good group of questions to answer through all of these sort of pages. Some of them were generic. Some of them were specific to the location. At that point, there wasn't yet a good amount of data to personalize them as much as we wanted. So at the end of the day, I think it was like 7 or so of the questions and answers were generic about the service that they were given. And 3 of them were very specific to that particular location. Think Denver, Seattle, New York. So the answer was much more specific to that location. So a time has passed, and we have realized that at the end of the day, when we end up with an SEO crawler, we end up doing like content similarity. This is too much of similar content. It's helpful, but too generic. And also we wonder, okay, it's also very generic from a user standpoint to be actually helpful. Can we already leverage the know-how that has been developed in the last couple of years to craft more specific questions and answers? So we have been testing more specific, meaningful, descriptive questions and answers, which
written by human beings.
Sort of.
Okay. Tell me more.
So the questions have been generated with AI, edited by a human being to ensure the quality, to ensure the accuracy and the helpfulness of the content. Because they have thousands of these sort of pages, we are running tests to establish if we see a difference with the ones that already exist or not. And the impact not only from a ranking standpoint or traffic, but also the engagement, the sort of engagement that they tend to have with those snippets, because those snippets are not necessarily always opened. You need to open them up because of the design too. So we're tracking that too, so see that the type of interaction to see how much is worth it or not. As you can see, I mean, I love to leverage AI, but in a way that you cannot leave it on autopilot, in a way that always requires validation. And I believe that that makes the whole difference. By the way, now Google has disclosed, and also Google had disclosed for a long time since the beginning that they were okay with AI, as long as the output was helpful, unique, But in order to achieve all of these characteristics, I believe that there's a need of manual validation and addition, an expert manual validation and addition at the end of the day. So yes, there's a profit on doing that still, rather than doing it from scratch, but there's a need of that. In any case, let's test it. Let's see up to which point this is better, if the outcome that this has is better or not. And based on that, let's decide to extrapolate to the rest of the content. By the way, the content that is now in the FAQs, me as a human, as a user, I read it, and it's much better than the templated one. So I do expect that this is too soon to tell, by the way. This was only launched last week, I believe. It was a little bit of time in the making. But from a user standpoint, it's like, I don't care and I wouldn't be able to tell, by the way, if this was written, the base of it, on AI, but it's much more helpful and specific to each location.
So you mentioned thousands of pages, and I'm with you. AI can help to get the basics, beat the writer's block, and then a person can go ahead and improve, validate, see which claims are questionable, but still we're talking about thousands of pages. So can you even trust that the human did review them well, or didn't just say, it seems fine and like give me my salary? But what I'm going to, the point I'm trying to make is that I tweeted something recently about with all the websites using AI to generate thousands of pages of like terrible content. I kind of asked an open question on Twitter, like if Google is going to implement some kind of red flag when a given website publishes just too much content at the same time. And when you say like we updated FAQs on thousands of pages, I don't think right now you would raise a red flag with Google, but if in future, as people want to abuse this technology more and more, do you think Google would watch something like that if like all of a sudden 1,000 pages with content appear on a website? That's not something a typical website can pull off, right?
I mean, I think that already Google is doing this. Have you seen all of this completely AI generated content getting the index? So this is the thing. And we already have something along those lines with crop budget, right? And we have seen this, that in the last few years, Google is also not so fast indexing content. Why? I mean, and it's reasonable, right? They need to be more careful on what they get in their index in the first place. There's only so much or so many resources that they have, so many websites out there. So based on the perceived authority of their website, the historical frequency of of how much your content is updated and the freshness of your content, and what they find when crawling your website, if they find too many errors, if redirected pages, etc., they will crawl more or less. They will try to find more or less. And if the content is too similar, they will index or not, etc. And that is it's even before even ranking, right? It's just to index or not. So they are already doing this. They have already guidelines about crop budget, specifying well the criteria, right? And of course, it's about patterns. It's about your established authority. Is what they have or you have been already doing historically to fulfill your users' needs. So I believe that there's something completely different here on buying a domain from scratch that has never published anything for a while at least, and then all of a sudden it has 10,000 pages, and then another thing for you to revamp the content that has or existed for a while that usually gets renewed every day already in one way or another, and then all of a sudden it also revamps their FAQs. So, and also the level of uniqueness, quality, popularity, the rankability already of this type of pages, etc., etc. But by all means, you're completely right in terms of we are already seeing Google not indexing as much, be more careful on what they index, and the speed of indexing of actually very worthy content, right? I have had clients that new guides, new articles, they tend to take longer to get in Google Index. It's not as fast as before. That is why now, for example, to e-commerce or marketplaces that are changing their inventory all the time. And there might be certain facets, very specific subcategories. An example, if they have a couple of yellow Google bots figures, and they have only two, and these are very low-level facet, but it has such volume, it's profitable for them to index and optimize for. But they're always getting out of in stock. So these facets, many times, has zero product on stock, or one or two. And then the typical rule in SEO will say, okay, when it gets only one product in the facets, canonicalize it to the priority categories because it's not worth it to stand it by itself because it doesn't have offers to products. But if this product is coming back and forth every 2 days on the store, please, I want to establish a use case or a scenario where we handle that, because if you start canonicalizing back and forth, this facet, sorry, but Google won't be able to catch it as fast as it was before. Many times you will want to index this page and you will realize that, oh, it is still no index because last week you canonicalized it to the parent category and Google hasn't yet updated it. Now let's push it. Let's see if it refreshes, but you haven't been attracting traffic for a few days already because of this, and it's decreasing in ranking. So this is a scenario that before I didn't even pay attention much to it in projects. Now I do because I see that Google is lower on doing this. So yeah, there's that even for established websites, right? Yeah.
Another term you mentioned that I want to dig into is during our conversation, you said optimized page. What is an optimized page in Aleyda's book?
Yeah. So, for example, when we talk about a page that is optimized, is a page that is best in class to connect and fulfill the need for the relevant queries that the page is targeting. So, it's the best in class providing a relevant answer to the question of the user, of the need of the user, whether informational, transactional, commercial, whatever it is, and give the best experience. The ones that also it's not only trustworthy, but it's able to show and showcase and make it obvious that it's the most trustworthy place to consume that type of information on, that has the appropriate format also to fulfill that need. That need won't only need to be necessarily always text, but also videos or images or infographics, right? That will also be connected many times with some features to maximize the clickability and click-through rate in the SERPs, right? In some cases they do, in some cases they don't, but even if they don't, they will be the ones that will be formatted in a way that will better fulfill that need of the user. Of course, it's scrollable, it's indexable, provides a great user experience, is popular and authoritative, but I think indeed, you're 100% correct that there is like this qualitative sort of, let's say, layer of configurations, elements that are completely based on the context, on the query and the topic that you need to rank or you want to rank, that will make the whole difference. And for me, like a page that is optimized, a page that has all of these qualities combined and aligned, and is the alignment of all of them that will provide the right signals to Google. And of course, when I mention all of this, it's not isolated. It's also in context of their competitors. If their competitors are already doing this too, so you better doing it better and with something extra on the top, right? Because you need to show a unique selling proposition, why they should come to you versus them. So yeah, it's based on the context, based on also versus your competitors, and it's tricky. It's not a single thing, or it's not generic. The ratings, I 100% agree with you that it's like 0 to 100. It's really ridiculous, right? Even if you are very relevant and descriptive from a semantic standpoint, all of the popularity, you need to put yourself in context of your competitors and in the context of the intent of the user, the need of the user at that point of the journey.
So, in terms of putting yourself against your competitors, this is kind of another reason why I personally struggled to kind of advise our product team on the on-page tool. Because what most on-page tools do is they analyze the content of the top ranking pages and they push you to use all the same, I don't know, call them phrases, call them keywords, call them entities, like depending on how sophisticated a certain SEO professional want to look, they would use increasingly more complex terms to explain it. But in my opinion, what I dislike about this strategy to kind of shoehorn more keywords and phrases onto your page to make sure it covers the topic in the same way, it kind of strips you of the freedom to approach the topic how you want to approach this. And right now, for example, what we're seeing in our kind of digital marketing space where we are creating content, when you search for something, all the top 10 pages are essentially the same. Like if one page is a listicle, if the top ranking page is a listicle,
all other 9 pages would be a listicle. If the number 1 ranking page is ultimate guide, 9 other pages would be ultimate guide. And the thing is, like, Google is either Google is rewarding this freaking sameness, or people are just afraid of taking a different angle at the topic because Google just wants the sameness in the search results. So, like, what do you think about this?
I think it's laziness at the end of the day, right? It's laziness because I believe that you can fulfill the same intent and be as relevant as these other ultimate guides, but showcasing something a little bit unique, more appealable, specific, that will make the user click on you rather than them. Because at the end of the day, if they're showcasing all the same or what looks to be the same, what is the difference, right? So I try to, and this is, I believe, when you see SEO as part of marketing too, how we can highlight
SEO
better.
as part of business, not just marketing.
Indeed.
It's like it's integrated everywhere.
100%. So how you can showcase, how we can have the base of relevance, of comprehensiveness, of connecting with the user need in a way that Google is identifying the intent of the user to be, while doing something better, unique, different. It might be even the UX of the page, even many times. It's not even necessarily even the information itself, right? But the format of how you showcase something. So the other day, an example of this, right? The other day I was doing this research for a client that is in the dog pet space, let's say. Yes. And if you search for dog names in the US, you will see a lot of guides reviewing and explaining the typical list of the top 10 dog names for in the US for female and male dogs. And these are literally blog posts formatted in a list. 9 of the 10 in the top 10 are like that. And there's one player here that has done a proper analysis, a study. The list is backed, but it's not only that. Rather than going for the typical blog post format, they have pretty much a hub, a directory-like hub, in which they list not only female or male, but also per color, per size, and the design is so engaging and so fun to go through, and they also have stats of people saying why they ended up choosing each name. Oh, I chose my little poodle to be called Brownie because I saw this and it gave me this. So it provided me all of this additional context and reasons to understand better why these were the top names at the end of the day for this type of dog at a much more granular basis. And the whole experience was much better. And I was telling to my client, look, this is what you need to do with this research that you're doing, because these other players very likely had the same raw data, but they didn't showcase it like this. They didn't do it like this. And at the end of the day, I prefer to go to this other one. So, and they were actual study, browsable, comprehensive per type of dog. So they showcase also in their snippet all of the ways that they could help you to choose the right name for your dog. And essentially was like the same raw information, but one will build up in the experience and the format and the way that they were showcasing this information. And the other were the laziness of the ultimate dog guides, most voted in our survey, things like that. So again, one is done from a marketing standpoint to make it appealable too, and really connect in the best way and to fulfill the user need. And the other was like, yeah, we want to integrate keywords and we want to rank and be relevant, right? So that is the different, I would say, mindset with one or the others. And there are different ways to obtain it, right? But I think that this is a good example of something that I just saw right before. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the problem. This is why I'm personally very hesitant with all these tools, because they push you to create the same page instead of pushing you to...
But Tim, this is not the fault of tools. And allow me to tell, I mean, I have to say something, right? I believe that, of course, it has to do with wordings. I really like the way that Cyboop, big heads up to them, they do that with their own SEO crawler because they are very careful on specifying like these are not bad optimizations. This is not 100 to 0 to 100, but there's like, oh, these are signals that you can take into account, or this might be, depending on your context. And they add a lot of, let's say, in the description of each issue, they word it in a way that is not, this is bad, you need to fix it. No, if this page is meant to rank for meaningful queries for you, they shouldn't be indexable. Or if these pages are meant to rank, they shouldn't canonicalize to others because of this. And they give you context on what is good or bad. And depending on that, of course, you will need to take action or not, right? Rather than, oh, this page is not indexable. Every page should be indexable. Not really, right? So as long as you provide context, is good. As long as you allow for people to configure or to put weight in their own particular scenario to that content to take or not the indexability of this section. You know that all of the, an example, internal search results of your pages will be no index or will be blocked, and that's for a good reason. You eliminate those from the crawls, or you don't put weight on them on your rating, things like that. As long as you give the flexibility, is good. I think that the issue here is, again, laziness, and then unfortunately SEOs who are just starting and they take the reference of tools as if they were absolute truths, and they allow that to drive their strategy, right? If that was true, there wouldn't be a need of SEO consultants, but our work as consultants or specialists, right? It adds that layer of context based on the business goals, marketing goals, product goals, UX, all of these constraints, restrictions, requirements, etc., etc. And that should be our value, right? Indeed.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to blame the on-page tools for the same content or anything. I'm just trying to say that we struggle with that with our own metrics at Ahrefs because people misunderstand. They don't take time to learn more about the metrics and they misuse those metrics. And this is why some people are screaming, I don't know, on Reddit, on Twitter, those metrics are meaningless, yada, yada, yada. The reason I'm asking all those questions is because we are trying to create the on-page tool, which we would use ourselves. And I struggle to envision it myself. But yeah, we don't have time to go deep into this topic. We're running out of time. So the last thing I wanted to ask you is about personal branding, because you have one of the biggest audiences in the SEO space period. So I wonder which of the channels of your communication with people who want to follow you, who want to hear from you, you value the most. So you have newsletter, you have Twitter, you have LinkedIn, you have Crawling Monday. So how do you approach those channels?
Well, for a long while, I was very active in Twitter. And that was pretty much my only channel, social channel, right? Like, because otherwise it was, I published on my own blog from time to time, also contributed in industry blogs from time to time, and then a lot of speaking. And a lot of my content, I have to say, was left up as decks. And I didn't have the time to repurpose or showcase it in different ways, whatever. In any case, being so dependent on a third-party platform, like Twitter, I believe, is a mistake. And I easily understood it when Elon Musk started to do his thing on Twitter, now X. And I was like, do I want to put all my X on this still anymore, etc. So I diversify to LinkedIn. Now I am much more active on LinkedIn and I balance both. And I have to say something. I have been very, very surprised on LinkedIn. I started, I wasn't doing much on LinkedIn, I have to say. So I revamped pretty much my profile to start publishing at the beginning of last year. I believe I had 40,000 followers by default. I wasn't doing anything. And then now I have 67,000. So 20K more. And what I do is pretty much just republish what I publish in Twitter. So it's not that I have a full-on strategy to maximize. No, that's it. So if I have to recommend someone to put a bigger effort to, I would say LinkedIn. It's very noisy because you have all the link building spam and stuff. And also AI comments that you can tell is so obvious. They could work it a little bit more to not make it so obvious. It's terrible. I wish also that the platform will do something more, but I guess it's the metrics that they need to show that are always growing anyway. But yeah, so if you overlook that and blocked and filter, is from a reach standpoint, is really, really good. And then, of course, a newsletter. I have to say, like, for example, Crawling Mondays, many of these projects that I have, I started as my side projects at the beginning of the year. So Crawling Mondays, I started in 2019 as a test project to test a little bit and play with YouTube. SEO FOMO was the same with a newsletter. I have been very, very impressed, not only with the growth, but the monetization of SEO FOMO right from the start. Like before it reached the 5K subscribers, I had already brands asking me to sponsor and to advertise, right? And I would say social is very top of the funnel in terms of visibility, etc. But the newsletter, even if the numbers of my subscribers still 31K or so, almost 32K, far less than my Twitter following or LinkedIn, but are much more engaged. It's much more bottom of the funnel. And it's something that I own. I can't change platforms, and these are subscribers that follow me directly, right? Rather than depending on third-party platforms. So I will highly, highly advise that you also start a newsletter from tips, news, whatever, insights.
How long did it take you to get to 30K subscribers?
I started in 2020. So,
Not bad.
4 years.
Quite fast.
Yeah, 4 years. Well, it requires, you need to be constant, right? Like, of course, if I compare my growth with the growth of many of these AI newsletters now, that they went from 0 to 100K in 6 months. Not that fast, but anyway.
But it's also not your top priority from what I understand. So
100%. So it's a nice side project that is actually profitable. I have to say that all of the other ones that I have don't generate profit. SEO FOMO does. Is already making more than what I was making as an employee full time.
That's great.
Back in this is crazy. But yes, it's something that allows me to connect and to share my thoughts too, if I want directly to followers, subscribers, and it's something that I expect to build on more. You mentioned well at the beginning regarding the forum. I have also the events section. Expect more on the SEO FOMO website, because my expectation and my goals is to build upon that to establish like a bigger hub, let's say, on SEO and digital marketing type of things. And now I have also marketing FOMO too.
Nice. If you'll be running events, you know where to find sponsors, right?
Yes, of course. Let's definitely talk. What I want are meetups that are free to go to, that are good to network. Also leveraging places that I will be at anyway many times, to connect with people in a different ways than just online or to the newsletter. So let's definitely coordinate on that.
Thanks a lot for the conversation. There's still a lot of topics that we didn't cover, but I guess we can have you sometime again. I really enjoyed talking to you. And now we have lots of things to continue discussing when we bump into each other in real life.
Yes, hopefully so. And it was a pleasure to speak, and I hope that the audience finds this it's a different type of, I will say, conversation, also meaningful and useful for them. Thank you very much for the chance.
Ahrefs Podcast.